Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you our group work for the school year of 2025 to 2026. So if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. All right, so at this point, all of my kids' individual subject curriculum has come out. So I have an 8th grader, 7th grader, 5th grader, 3rd grader, and some pre-K information and activities. And so if you want any of those kinds of curriculums to look at, or you're interested in that kind of stuff for your kids, I'll link those videos down below, and also just the most recent videos on my channel. You can go back and look at all of those. So today we're gonna go through our group work, or like our family subject type things, and I have it split into 2 categories. And so it's gonna be stuff that we're going to do here before Africa, and then things that we can do in Africa. Because there's certain things like science that has a lot of activities to it, and I love that it has all those activities, but I just don't know what will be available in Africa. And so I tried to go through all the curriculum and see what would be best done here, what we would have access to easiest here, and then what we could do in Africa, and kind of split it up that way. So most of these things will be like summer into early fall, and then we will take one like history and then scripture study we'll carry with us into Africa. And then there'll be a few other things that we do in Africa. But a big chunk of this is gonna be stuff we're gonna do into like summer in maybe about 6 weeks. We just finished school today, and so we're on summer break for like 6-ish weeks right now. Our summer looks a little different this year because of our trip to Africa. And so then we'll start school and start doing some of these subjects summer and then into early fall before we leave. So that's kind of the plan, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. All right, so I'm gonna go through these topics kind of in the way that we do them in our group work, because then it just flows better in my brain, it makes more sense. So the first thing that I'm going to mention is a scripture study, which is basically going to stay the same until January. So with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we study the same thing from January to December, and then it switches. So this year we're on the Doctrine and Covenants. Next year we'll be doing the Old Testament. And so when we're in Africa, like midway through our Africa trip, we will be switching to the Old Testament. But until December, we will still be using these booklets. Well, I don't know if we'll take them to Africa, but until we go to Africa, we're using these booklets. So these are from the Red-Headed Hostess. She also has an online subscription, which I really like. It's, I think, about just over $10 a month, I believe. And it's just really easy, really good. She has personal study things. She has activities for little kids, bigger kids, teens, all sorts of stuff. So it makes it a lot easier to plan. And then they have their scriptures as well. So that stuff will remain the same. And then also with journals, it'll probably remain the same. I forgot to grab the journal book that I take questions from, but I'll put it down in the comments. It's from Amazon, and it just has a bunch of questions. If you have just one kid, or if you want to buy a book for all of your kids, they could write their answers in the actual book. But since I didn't want to do that, I just have them use these little composition notebooks, and it also helps as like them to be able to write the question, to practice handwriting and stuff. So they'll write the question in the book, and then they'll answer the question. So like one of the questions recently is, what is something that is easy for you? Okay, or what would your perfect day look like? And then they'll write their answer. So I put this question up on our board over here, and then they just do the copy work and then write the answer. And then they also have been doing these journals as well. I like them and I don't like them. I don't know. We're gonna keep doing them since there's still space in them to do them, but these again are from Amazon. They have one for art too, which I do have, but we're probably gonna wait till maybe next year to do that one. So we have, sorry, my voice is like cutting out on you. It's like, no, you're not allowed to talk today. It has my year of writing and my year of nature. And so I don't even think they're halfway through, because we haven't been doing this the whole school year. And so in here, it's like, think of a name for this imaginary island, and has a picture down here. So again, it's sort of a mix between creative writing and journaling, and just learning how to think through things, brainstorming different ideas. This one's like, how does a racehorse feel when it's running a race? Try to imagine, then describe it best. So just helping them think through some of these ideas. And some of my kids are more serious about it than others. Some of them are like, I don't know what I would do, you know, or whatever. And other ones will write better thoughts than that. So that's something we're gonna keep doing. It's kind of, you know, it's their creative writing practice, it's handwriting practice, it's journaling, and it's just kind of all those things in one. And so they usually will do that while I'm reading a read aloud during our group work. They'll work on that stuff. So, and then for read alouds, I'll mention this. While we are still here, I'm gonna try to make it through some more of our books we already have. And because taking tons of books with us, that's just not gonna work out very well. The suitcases will be heavy very fast. And so we just finished Refugee, which I reviewed in my quarter 4 for this last school year, if you wanted to check that out. And it's by the same author, Alan Gratz. I don't know if that's how he says his last name, but I have 2 more. So my oldest son did read this one on his own. This is about Pearl Harbor. And then Ground Zero is about 9/11. So I've been trying to do a little bit more historical fiction with our read alouds. And so I don't think we'll be lucky if we get through both of those in the timeline. So we'll see. I don't think we'll be able to get through anything else, but that's kind of my plan, is to keep going through those books since it'll be difficult to take them with us. And then we will be starting The Good and the Beautiful's new history curriculum. I'm so excited about that. So this is history year 1. And I'm excited to see how it goes, because history can be really boring sometimes to talk about, which is why I like reading historical fiction. Because just going through all the dates and everything it just can get old really fast. And so I was excited they came out with this just like in the last 2 months maybe, or in the last month. It's very, very new. And so I'm excited to try this out. This is the course book. It has stories. Everything is very vibrantly colored. We only went through their history, their year 1 of their old history, and I have year 2, but we never did it. But it was not this colorful. Like, this makes history more fun, it just being colorful. But there's some different stories in here. And then this one has maps and images in it so that you can, oh look, astronauts, that'll be fun. And then each of them have little workbooks too that go with it. So this is for 3 through 6. This is through 7 through 8, because I have kids in all of those ranges. And then there's also a K through 2 one. So we'll see who uses this, because I'll have a 3rd grader, but some of the activities might be fun for her, or I can just give them to my toddler if it's like more coloring type stuff. And then each of them get a timeline book that you'll go through and put stickers in as you talk about the different parts of history. And then it has these review cards as well that come with it. So there's a lot of different things with this curriculum. And the plan is to take that with us to Africa. We're gonna start it. I don't know if we'll start it in the summer when we start all the science stuff, because the science things I'm gonna mention need to be finished before we go to Africa. But the history curriculum can come with us. And it's a year-long course, so it has to come with us if we want to be able to do it for the whole year and stuff. So we'll kind of see how it goes. We might not start it until a little bit later summer. I haven't made a set plan of what we're gonna do. I need to outline how long everything's gonna take with the science curriculum I chose and all that kind of stuff. So we are going to start history before Africa, and we will be doing it in Africa. And then we're gonna try to do 3 science units before we leave. So the first one is Kingdoms and Classifications. And so we've done most of the Good and the Beautiful's science units. So I picked 2 that we hadn't done yet, and then we're gonna redo one that we did a while ago. It's been a few years. And so Kingdoms and Classifications, again, I went through and looked through all of these to see if the activities were simple enough, but most of them I'm like, oh, it'll just be easier to just do it here instead of trying to worry about it there. And then I got student journals for all of my kids. And then there's the ecosystems one that we're gonna do as well. And I have the like K through 2 workbook, I have the 3 through 6, and then I also have the 7 through 8 because I have older kids that fit into that category. And then the one that we are redoing is space, because kids just love space. And I have a child that loves it. He asked recently, are we gonna talk about space again? Because like I said, it's been a couple years, and I'm like, actually, yes, I got stuff to do. Space. And this one has some really fun activities, which is why I was like, oh, I want to do that one here where I know we can have access to all the things. And so here's a student journal. I just grabbed a bunch of, I didn't grab them all, but I just grabbed one. So this one is the 7 through 8. And then this is the little workbook for younger kids as well. And the nice thing about these workbooks is they correlate with the lesson. So this one says lesson 8. So when we're on lesson 8, I can just say, oh, lesson 8. And if it's my 3rd grader that's doing it, then she's able to just look at it and know exactly where we are. So those are the science things we're going to be doing here before we leave to go to Africa. And then the last thing I want to mention before I move to the few Africa things that are different than what I've already shared with you is just kind of, it's not read alouds as a whole family. It's more like reading assignments for my specific kids. And this is where I kind of need your help and input if you have some. So I wanted my kids, maybe your kids do the same thing, but they get stuck in reading books that they're familiar with, that they like, and they'll reread them. And I want to push them just a little bit. I'm fine with them reading things they like, but I also want them to expand what they are reading. And you never know if you like other things either if you don't try new things, right? And so I want to push them a little bit and also have them read some more maybe nonfiction as well. So it's not just all kind of fluff stories, if that makes sense. And so I'm trying to compile a list. Like I have kids ranging from 13 down to 8 that will be doing this. And so any books kind of in that age range or just above, right? Because you can read a little bit above that age range will be great. So I've already reached out to someone in our neighborhood who's a librarian at the middle school here, and she sent me a list of some of the like battle of the books type stuff. I am into historical fiction, so trying to figure out those kind of books as well. And then also I grabbed a few from my shelves just as an example of what I'm trying to look for as well. So Lantern Lane is one my kids haven't read. This is probably one that my daughter would actually really enjoy. She probably wouldn't think it was like assigned reading, but I have all 4 of these from The Good and the Beautiful. So this is an example of something, and I'm thinking that I would look through the books and assign a certain amount. You know, if the book is longer, it's gonna take longer to finish. If the chapters are short enough, it'd be like 1 or 2 chapters a day type of a thing, just to push them a little bit outside of what they're already doing. This is another example. I have 4 of these international adventures, and I hear that they're a little bit higher, like for a little bit older kids. And I have a few older kids, and so I was thinking about having them maybe read some of these as well as more of like a nonfiction option. And then I also have this Pride and Prejudice book from The Good and the Beautiful. So obviously this is like an abridged version or whatever of it. It's still massive, but I thought about having this be assigned as well. My 11-year-old would probably enjoy it. You know, it's hard, like these types of books, more classic literature is just a little bit harder to read. It's not written in the same way. And so it's a little bit of a struggle, but I think it's a good thing to learn how to read and to work through that struggle. So classic literature options would be great. When we're in Africa, these things will be done on a Kindle. We're not taking these books with us. So it'll be stuff that we can get on a Kindle, which a lot of classic literature is a little bit easier to get on a Kindle and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. If you have book suggestions, things that kind of just push a little bit, you know, isn't just sit there and like leisurely read something, which I feel like is really good. I like to do that. But I also have found a lot of value in reading things that push me and maybe I have to work a little harder to read and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. If you have suggestions, put them down in the comments. I'm trying to make a list so that when we do start school, probably this will be more towards September, and we might do something for summer reading. I'm not really sure if I'll assign books for that or just let them pick, but I'm just trying to put together a list of options. All right, so there's only a few differences for Africa. I already mentioned, you know, the reading assignment type stuff will be done on a Kindle while we're there. With scriptures, I'll probably try to find small Old Testaments we can take with us, like just this size, this same size, but just Old Testament, which is hard. Old Testament is so big. No matter how you get it, it's just big. Okay? The New Testament is so much smaller, but the Old Testament is huge. And so try to find something like that that we could take that hopefully won't weigh too much, and my kids could use that for our study in January once we switch to the Old Testament. So that's kind of my goal with that kind of stuff. And then we are going to do one science unit while we were there. While we are there, we're just gonna speak like it's already happened. But the one we're gonna do is maturation and sexual reproduction from the Good and the Beautiful, because this was the easiest one to do there. There's very few like extra things that need to be done with this, and most of it is like, here's a picture, and if there's copies and stuff that need to be made, I'll do all that kind of stuff before we leave and make sure everything's prepped for it. But we have done this unit before. It was when I think I was pregnant with my 3-year-old. I can't remember, or it was when I was pregnant with my 2-year-old. We went through and talked about this. You know, it was a good time to talk about it because it goes through babies and gestational type things and all that kind of information. So it was a really good thing. But now I have kids that are actually like in puberty, starting to go through puberty. And so to talk about it a little bit more, I think would be helpful. And so it has the student notebook or journal, which I can't remember if we actually used these last time because the journals are newer. And so I got the new manual journal for all my kids to go through that. And the journals don't have age ranges like the other science units do. So that's what we're gonna do for science. And then the other thing that we're going to do there is the US Constitution and Government from the Good and the Beautiful. This was another one that I looked through and it was easier. It does have a few activities. So some of them we might try to do before. I haven't decided. Again, this all just comes in planning because this is about a half a year course and it's not a full year course like the history curriculum is. And so we might just do it there, or I might start it here and then we'll finish it there. I don't know for sure yet. But the plan is to do a big chunk of it while we are in Africa. So this is the course book. And then there'll be a few things I prep that need copies or need to like cut out or stuff that I'll do before we leave. And each of my kids will get a journal. This one, is it the same for all of them? I think so. Whereas the history has a much thicker journal for the older kids. And then it has a reader that goes along with it. And so that's, you know, this stack is not very big. Obviously our history curriculum will be going with us also, but I tried to keep it as simple, minimal as possible, and also things that were feasible we could do there and that it wouldn't like ruin the experience. Whereas a lot of the other science units, there's a lot of activities that go along with them that make them more engaging, more hands-on, and I didn't want to get rid of that. So we're gonna do those before we leave. All right, so that is our group work for this upcoming school year. It's kind of crazy, a little bit of a mess, and it might not all go how I have planned out or thought about it in my head. We will just have to see, since, you know, things don't go according to plan generally, and then when you decide to go live in another country for 6 months, things really might not go according to plan. So we'll see how everything goes, but that's kind of what my thoughts are at the current moment. So put down in the comments what you're doing for group work, what you like to do. I know some people that have older kids, it looks a little bit more simple. Sometimes it's just like a scripture study and maybe a read aloud, but with younger kids, maybe it's more. I just love to hear how you do group work or family time or morning basket, whatever you call it in your home. And remember to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.